crafters, welcome to the channel. In this video, I'm going to talk about several different types of polyfill alternative. I'd love to know what made you click on this video, why it is you're looking for a polyfill alternative. Some of the options I'm going to cover in this video are free, and some of them might surprise you. And I'd also love to know which one at the end of the video you think you would like to try next. The options I'm including are relatively easy to get your hands on, so I was mindful of that when compiling this list. For me, a big reason I look for a polyfill alternative is polyfill is made from petroleum, and the very tiny fibers as they're airborne when you're working with it to stuff your projects really irritate my eyes, and one of my cats is extremely sensitive to it and it makes him cough. So I really wanted to avoid using polyfill if at all possible. Not all of the options I'm covering are good for all projects, so keep that in mind when you're thinking about which one would be best for what you're making. For instance, the first one I'm going to cover is cotton filling. Cotton is soft, natural, one of the pricier options if you're going to be using it for a pillow. It's not something I would use for small craft projects, but I like it for pillows because pillows, when they're stuffed with something like polyfill, which is not breathable and it's not very soft, it's a little scratchy and it's not quite as squishy and nice as you would like a pillow to be. You can find this raw cotton stuffing on Amazon and Etsy. I'll have links below, as well as a link to the blog post on my website that has resources as well. Now, if you do want to use pure cotton, but cotton stuffing is out of your price range, recycled cotton might be a better option for you. A company called Hooked has cotton that has been sourced from the fabric industry remnants, and they've been turned into a soft, pillowy type of stuffing that you can use, and the price is fairly comparable to polyfill. Now for my perhaps surprising option, maybe to some of you it's not, but I have two of these running around my home. So I have walking active polyfill makers at all times, and I keep their hair in a tin. Now before you think it's very strange to use cat, honestly, certain dog breeds also, you could use their hair. When I got my first rag doll, one of my friends is a vet tech, and she told me that people actually sell these long-haired cats coats to the very cold countries of the world because they like them. They are breathable yet still warm, unlike synthetic fibers. And when you think about the yarns that we use, some of our natural yarns that that aren't plant fibers, but that are animal fibers, like the cashmere goat, alpaca, and sheep's wool, why should any other animal hair be any different? So if you do not have these long hair breeds walking around, like Siberians, Maine Coons, their coat's a little more silky, but certainly they have long hair that can be brushed and released. Ragdolls, Himalayan, Persian, those types of breeds, you may have a friend or relative that has them, or you could consider asking a groomer. So if you have a pet that you do take to a groomer, they may be happy to give you the hair that they shave. Now, in the spring and summer months, some cats and dogs will get something called a lion cut, where the head and tail and parts of the legs are left unshaved, but the body, for the animal's comfort, is shaved off. You could request that coat. I would not recommend getting a coat that's been shaved due to illness or neglect. Sometimes the neglect is involuntary. It might be from a senior's home where the senior just absolutely cannot take care of grooming the animal any longer, so the animal gets more matted. There could be flea infestation, things like that. My cats are strictly indoors. I don't have any of those issues. However, a little dirt is fine because you can get a very fine mesh bag and launder the hair. Now, another tip, if you are going to go this route, I don't put the hair directly into the craft. And I don't use these for pillows. So I have these thin style bags. These are the fold top bags, and you can find them at the dollar store or the $1.25 store, whatever we're calling it now, because this is a really flexible plastic as opposed to the Ziploc style. And I tuck in hair, and then from there I mold it into the amigurumi that I'm making. So this keeps it from sticking to everything. You know how animal hair sticks to absolutely everything, so this will help to protect it. Now, I would not use this in something that has to be laundered and sealed up so that it can't be taken out to be laundered. So that's something to consider. You know, free comes with a little bit of work in this case. But this is definitely a viable option for many people, is to have the hair of a pet.
The next option is a bean fiber that comes from the kapok tree. This tree is known for its telltale roots. They're enormous. This tree thrives in tropical climates, and while it doesn't fruit often, when the beans open, they make a beautiful, buoyant, pillowy, soft, like a baby chick fiber. In the past, it's been used to stuff mattresses and even flotation devices, perhaps the life vests that were used on the Titanic. Corn fiber, often called eco-fill, is a corn-based fiberfill style of craft stuffing. It does not come to you in its whole form like the previous options I have covered here. For this, I have to put on my scientist hat. Eco-fill is a bioplastic, and I am going to briefly go over what that means and how it is made. Corn is transformed into something called polylactic acid fiber, or PLA. This is less eco-friendly with regard to the energy required to produce it. It requires about 65% of the energy used to make petroleum-based polyfil, but on the other hand, it is said to be fully biodegradable, unlike polyfil. This image shows the cycle of this product. The starch in the corn is wet milled. This process extracts the natural starch from corn kernels or corn husks. Then the starch is converted to sugar. To do that, acid, enzymes, and heat are introduced to the cornstarch, converting the starch into a form of sugar called dextrose. This sugar is then fermented by the action of lactobacillus bacteria. That is the good bacteria we find in yogurt, kefir, and fermented drinks. In this instance, it is used to create lactic acid. This acid subsequently converted into lactide, a strong and sturdy ring form of lactic acid. These lactide molecules bond together to create lactide polymers. It is this polymerization process that creates the raw material of polylactic acid, which is a bioplastic.
Last but not least is something you should already be doing, which is saving your scraps. Anything less than about 24 inches, I put into a container just like I do with my pet hair and save it up to fill my projects.